Let's continue our therapeutic breath for cleansing the lungs. In this case, we're going to work with the VOCs, or volatile organic compounds. Hi, I'm Dr. Peter Minke. This is Minke Wellness, and we've been working with cleansing the lungs using our therapeutic breath system. And so today, rather than we've done the mucus and we've talked about things like that, so this time we're going to talk about how to work on the release or exhale of toxins, volatile compounds that might be trapped in our system. So first of all, let's talk about what are these volatile compounds, and then we'll look to make a connection with those and invite those to leave so that we can have a clearer, cleaner system. And volatile compounds are, of course, compounds that you can end up, they smell, they're aromatic, and because they flash off, they diffuse pretty easily. And these can be everything from gasoline fumes. You see on the gas pump it says, don't inhale, because these are nasty compounds. And then there's also so these are, when we're talking about mostly these external sources, things that we would breathe in, paint fumes. Like I said, gas fumes, and kind of fumes, glue, formaldehyde that might be coming out of our construction material, like new carpet or the new car smell. All those things are volatile organic compounds, and they can come in, and my experience is they can actually get trapped in the tissue. They come into the lymphatic system, and we're going to be doing. We're going to be doing a lot more of this as we go into our next month here very shortly, and talk about the lymph and the blood, and this will be a good segue into it. There's other sources of these. Rather than coming in through the respiratory system, we have other sources where we can get these compounds coming in, and various alcohols and some other things like that. And these come in our cosmetics and our cosmetic products that are not natural, and we can also get some of them from our food, obviously. But when we put these cosmetic products on our skin, and these things absorb into the skin, and they get through, it's called transdermal absorption, and they get into the tissue, and now how do they get back out? I mean, how do we get them out? And one way that the body uses as a secondary detox mechanism, of course, is breathe them out through the lungs. The third class of these compounds comes from our actual body creating these. You might have heard of the term ketosis. So when someone goes on a diet that's really, really low carb, high in protein, the body starts producing ketones and aldehydes and other kinds of things that are volatile, and we can actually excrete them or get rid of them through the breath, and you can actually smell that on the breath. So anyway, this is a detox mechanism. So that's what we're going to work with today. Work on inviting. I use that term, but inviting or working on cleansing or releasing these compounds out of the lungs to help the body just to get rid of these things, because we do not want to accumulate this. Okay, so in this kind of breathing, I'm gonna focus. It's hard for me to focus both on the inhale and the exhale. So it's just too much consciousness for me, too much focus. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work on activating and vitalizing for the first inhales, with the inhale, and then I'm going to work on and letting go or releasing or inviting those to go out on the exhale. So I'm going to do those separately. Okay, so first, I would breathe in this vitality. And so when I talk about breathing in vitality, what do I mean? And so there's a lot of different ways that you could image this. Now, if you're a science geek like me, I think of the oxygen molecule, and I think of the actual bond in there, and it's vibrating, and it's, so you have all this, it's just, there's energy. Life is energy. All these molecules are vibrating energetically, and they're all activated and swirl. And where does that energy come from? That's God's creative energy that He put into place and continues to utilize to help us with our healing and our life and the way the world works and all. That's the way I think of this. So I think of just of all this wonderful activated with God's love and God's creative power, and all these compounds and these molecules coming in, and so that's how I do it. You could work on any other, however you want to think of it. Very naturalistic. You could just say the energy of the sunlight. You could talk about the energy of love. We could talk about If you think of water and the water cycle or oxygen, it's been in the air and it's been revitalized by sunlight and the water cycle as it comes off the ocean and comes back. So, any of those, when I talk about breathing in this vitality, the vital energies are all around us. We live in this amazing world, and it's a world of nature and goodness. And if you've ever been out in a forest, which is why I love the essential oils, you see, because it gives me that connection to that vitality and that feeling of freshness and of the best that nature has to offer. It's easy to think about the bad stuff, right? It's easy, and so anyway, I'm focusing consciously on the good things and on the good aspects of nature. And yes, I know that there's been a lot of stuff that we've done to the world, but that's part of what I'm trying to work with. And if we all have a little bit more connection to our own bodies and how beautifully we're made, then we might be more likely to care for the environment. If I don't care about my own body, then why would I care about the environment at all? I mean, I'm talking about the global Earth environment. And of course, this major crisis of what we're doing to the planet. But what are we doing to ourselves? If we're not willing to take care of ourselves and our very personal body selves, then I'm not going to care about the polar bears or the rainforests or anything else, right? So it really starts right here. And I think it's probably, I don't mean to be too spiritual on you, but that's what Jesus was referring to when they asked him, what's the greatest commandment? And he says, love God with your whole self. And then as a direct correlation to that, he says, love your neighbor as yourself. Well, implicit in all of that love is that I have to love myself. All of that starts with me. I've got to love myself. So it's a circle here. Love myself, love my neighbor, love God. The love just comes through. That's how it works. We share all that. So it's just breathing in the love, right? Okay. Now, so let's get on with cleansing. So I'm going to breathe in and make a connection and bring that vital love energy to come in, right? And feeling that oxygen and just really getting the lungs activated and glowing. Now that I've got it, the sense of this activation, and I'm really breathing deep, I make sure I go all the way down to the bottom, and then breathe out to the front, and then breathe out to the back. So I'm really getting to my breath volume. I've been working all month to increase my breath volume, so really trying to utilize that. Now, as that energy starts to soak into the lung tissue and in the lining and the pleura and the rib cage, I'm going to feel that energy just soaking in. And now on the exhale, I'm going to pull, I'm going to invite all these nasty, smoky, negative, bad energy toxins, these volatile compounds, whether it's any glues and like I said, new carpet smells or gas fumes or whatever, or even those synthetic fragrances that, if you please, I hope you've gotten rid of those, the phthalates and plastic residues and all these pesticide residues and all these things that we get hit with all the time. I'm going to breathe those out and let them go. They do not belong in my body. Okay, so, and again, exhale. Out, out, out. Let them go, let them go, let them go. Bring in another breath and then exhale out. Okay, so a couple breaths in, 3 breaths in, 3 breaths out, and letting those go. Now, when I do heavy exhaling, it tends to change the chemistry. I don't know whether it's a carbon dioxide stuff, and so I start to get a mild headache. I don't know whether that's, and it's usually because when I'm doing this cleansing breath, so I end up with a mild headache. So I don't know if you're in a situation where you're as toxic as I am, but that's why I go back and I might take a little bit extra sulfurzyme, a little bit extra vitamin C, drink some extra water, so that I can really replenish and allow, as this stuff is coming out, and allow that to happen. So now, just one more breath, just to feel vital. And I might again, I can use my release oil if I feel like I'm not letting go, and there may be emotional reasons or whatever, or just I can use my release oil. And again, not having to use very much, but just allowing my mind to connect to this energy of letting go. You can breathe that in and then say, okay, now I'm gonna allow myself to let go of this burden, this chemical burden. I'm going to feel it. Now I don't want to just feel it to leave my lungs. I want it to leave all of me, right? So then we're going to get into a few more breaths of cleansing, and I'm going to allow this. So I'm going to breathe energy up into my head, and then a couple breaths, just sending that energy up into my head, and then exhale, pulling in the exhale that toxins out, and then out the lungs. Okay, and then I'm going to go down into my arms, pull those toxins out. Very good. And now down into my abdomen and hips, exhaling out all that junk, and then legs, pulling up and out. Okay, so you're starting to see where we're headed with this, that we can breathe into any part of the body. So just using our imagination and making that connection. We've been focusing primarily on the lungs for the respiratory system, and breathing into the lungs makes sense. But as I've just did here, and we're going to start, getting into there as we travel further and further into the body with breath, using the breath as a mechanism, as a tool to travel into the body, we can then access. And so this is what we're going to do next month. And we start breathing into the blood and the lymph. And of course, the blood and lymph go everywhere, right? They go all the way through. So we're going to have fun working on that. But make sure you do drink your water today, as we've done this last bit of cleansing the lungs, and to allow that to be a process. The cleansing is happening all the time. We need to do it all the time. So I wouldn't overdo this breathing. It tends to be very powerful. It really gets things going. But whenever you feel like you've been exposed or something, it's just not hard to do. Take a breath, take a few minutes to do a couple breaths, and allow that consciously to work. If it doesn't do anything, if I'm just fooling myself with all this consciousness, then at least I'm breathing deeply, okay? And so if I breathe a little bit more deeply throughout the day, that's more oxygen, that's better for me, okay? Well, happy breathing, happy wellness. We'll see you tomorrow.